Street Fighter 6 is the ultimate fighting game, but not in the way you may be thinking. What do I mean by that? Well, before I go any further, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me down below, how are you enjoying Street Fighter 6? Have you been playing the demo, or are you waiting for it to get on other platforms? What more do you want to see from Street Fighter 6? Street Fighter 6 recently had its big showcase, it dropped the demo, and I've been playing the demo of the World Tour, and something stuck into me. I think Street Fighter 6 is the ultimate fighting game, but also, I think it's the next evolution of fighting games. First of all, what I mean by the ultimate fighting game, I don't mean that it's the ultimate fighting game because it has all these modes, it plays really well, there's hardly any input delay, don't care about any of that. What I think it's the ultimate fighting game of is the balance of accessibility versus complexity. The balance of making sure you can bring in new players versus making sure your core audience can still be there and retain to have fun. Now the demo dropped and this was mostly just a single player campaign that they have, which is called the World Tour, a big whole fighting game RPG. And I thought to myself, this is perfect. The biggest issue that fighting games have had for many years is this accessibility versus the OG audience. You can't dumb down the mechanics and the controls of a fighting game too much because then the hardcore audience will not really care for the game. They won't play it competitively. They won't enjoy it. Yes, you may bring in some new audience, but you're turning away a lot of people that would play this game. And this has been something that has been plagued fighting games ever since Street Fighter 4 came out and brought fresh life into the fighting game genre. And I think now Street Fighter 6 is doing that exact same thing. Yes, fighting games do sell well, but they don't sell as well as their AAA counterparts, which is shocking since these games are made just as much love, care, and attention as those AAA games. They have the biggest development staff, they have a hardcore base of people that want to make this game great, and they even have a longer lifespan, with fighting games now having to live around 5 to 6 years with multiple seasons, DLCs, and multiple updates to make the game both good on the base wise, but also on an accessibility wise. The thing is, those people that play the game will be there from day one and continue to live with the game till its end, whereas people that play the game not so much will be there day one, but then they won't really care so much about the characters which you bring. So you have to make the game fun for them in that first initial year or two, because they're not going to be there all the way till the end. They'll rather watch the finals, EVO finals, than play in the EVO finals. So how did fighting games used to do this? Well, I think Mortal Kombat 9 was kind of the revelation for it. They added in a big story mode, single player story mode, that a lot of people bought Mortal Kombat 9 for and continues to buy Mortal Kombat. Injustice was the same. It was so big that Street Fighter and Tekken both had big story modes thrown in them. It wasn't just standard arcade mode anymore. You had to have some big story mode with voice acting to bring it all together. And that did work for a time, but eventually, you don't get those players to come back. And those story modes don't really make you good at the game. They just make you enjoy a really good story for about 3 hours, and then you don't really have much to do except the arcade mode. One of my favorite fighting games is Injustice 2, and not because it plays well or it's just because it's DC characters, but I really love the multiverse concept that it has in there. It has these random ladders that appear at various points. I kind of really love that single player campaign. And World Tour is kind of exactly like that, a gigantic fighting game RPG which teaches the players how to play fighting games organically. And that's the most important part. It teaches them how to play Street Fighter in an organic way. This also comes down to the control system. They have 3 control systems in this game. They have the classic, the normal control system. They have the modern control system, which I believe is like a single combo button press, which again, a good addition. And then they have a dynamic one, which is like an AI assisted one for people that just have no idea. You always have that one friend or someone like me who is not good at fighting games whatsoever, but they don't want to lose every time. So the AI assist comes in to make it much easier for them to just play. And I think that's a really good idea. This is what fighting games should be and should be going forward. You don't have to dumb down mechanics. You don't have to change mechanics to make it easier for players. To add in stuff and bring people into fighting games, you have to make it unique to them. The character creation, for example, is deep. It's probably the deepest characterization I've ever seen in a fighting game. You can do a lot of crazy stuff, stupid stuff, and just ugly stuff at the same time. That's exactly what you want. And then having the ability to take this character and play with them online in the Battle Hub is another plus. Tekken, for example, has gotten really popular because of its customization it could do on its characters. Street Fighter has gone even further and said, make your own dumb character and then copy the styles of the other characters you see, such as Chun-Li and Luke in the game. And that's a good plus as well. You get to learn those styles and make sure you can take those styles with you with other characters. Then, of course, they have the audio cues and all of these other tutorials in the game to help you learn these things as well. Keeping this all in the game is exactly what you need for type of players like me. You don't really care. I'm not gonna go out of my way to learn a character by watching a YouTube video and sit hours and hours learning it. I don't have time for that. I don't really care about fighting games in that way. But if it's in the game, it might make me want to play it. It's a good thing that arcade is still there. I think arcade should be in every fighting game. But this World Tour thing is a genius move. And making the demo based on it is also another genius move, because it allows people to get a taste of Street Fighter and say, I really like this RPG thing. I want to play more of it. Now, we don't know exactly how long this RPG World Tour is going to be. Could be 10 hours, could be 15 hours. But I think a good 15 hours in the fighting game is a win on Capcom's side. Look, I don't think fighting games are gigantic. I think fighting games are still a very niche genre. And I think it's kind of like sports games, or not racing games in my opinion, where they sell well, but they don't never go past their niche titleness. People, yes, there's a lot of people that play them, but not a lot of people that play them forever. I mean, I'll play a fighting game for maybe a couple of months and then get bored of it. But if there's something like this and the multi-tower system I talked about in Injustice, it keeps me wanting to come back. And this game is teaching you how to play Street Fighter in an organic manner. And I think that's great. I think the character creation really keeps this game fresh. I think it's something that needs to be done. Now, I'm not going to say that every fighting game needs to have this type of stuff, because every fighting game is different. But I do think how they're making sure that they can create this accessible fighting game, is also still making sure its core audience is happy. You can go and play this game competitively. It can play classic, and I believe they said some tournaments will allow modern controller use as well, which I think is a great idea. But it makes sure that people will keep coming back. Get them in the door, and sometimes you'll get a lot of people to stay, and I think the World Tour is exactly that. This can make people fall in love with fighting game, and I think that's exactly what World Tour is intended to do. Because once you fall in love with a certain genre, you kind of just want to get better at it, and you want to do more of it. And that's exactly what World Tour is doing. Street Fighter 6 is the ultimate fighting game, but because it's able to balance its accessibility versus its core audience, it's only going to show other fighting games what you have to do. You don't just need a story mode in it. Why don't you create something unique and different for those players that don't really care about fighting games? Street Fighter 6 caters to the core audience, to the people that play a little bit of fighting games, and to the people that don't play fighting games at all. And that's why Street Fighter 6, to me, may be the ultimate fighting game, and start us into a new era of fighting games that Street Fighter 4 did so more than 10 years ago. So that's the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me down below, what do you think of Street Fighter 6 accessibility versus complexity? And are you ready to play World Tour, or do you not care for it whatsoever?